This is before we had the whole trend of sequels, where an audience would go see this film, there's an open ending, hey, they know in a year they're going to see part 2, in a year they're going to see part 3, etc., etc. Well, there was never a Black Christmas 2, so the killer is still out there.
The very ending is cut up a bit, but I mean, that shot, you know, it took about 8 hours to light, and I think the shot lasted for over 5 minutes. And we did it 3 times and then went home. That was the day's work. But it started on a tight shot on Olivia in bed, and it came around seeing the people in the room and the camera holes and holes. And then it slowly starts to pan around, and you start to see the different rooms where people had been murdered. And you go all the way down the hall and then all the way up to the trap door at the very end. Physically, it was a difficult setup to do, particularly with the size of the gear and the equipment of the day. I don't know that doing the shot today, the shot itself would look any different, because I think, you know, what we were trying to accomplish we did, but how we would have gone about doing it would have been probably a lot easier.
Released in the winter of 1974, Black Christmas went on to a very successful run in Canada, grossing the second highest box office of any Canadian film at the time. It also became one of the first Canadian films to get a wide-scale American release. The film failed to match its successful Canadian run, however, when Warner Brothers decided to take things in a different direction.
When it went to Warner Brothers, they picked it up. That was great news for me. That was my first major distribution.
We went to the sneak preview, which was in Westwood, and we went with all the bigwigs of Warner Brothers. The president of Warner Brothers was there, and all the sales officers were there, and the people, when they came out, they had to fill in these cards. And of course, Bob and I were extremely anxious to see what the results, but the cards were terrific. The Warner Brothers people were absolutely delighted.
Warner Brothers had taken the film for distribution, and they thought that the title was misleading, that people would think it was a film about black people at Christmas.
Black Street Fighter was coming out, Shaft and Superfly and so forth, and Warner was very nervous that they thought that this film, being called Black Christmas, would be mistaken for a blaxploitation action film.
They decided that they would change the title, so instead they called it Silent Night, Evil Night.
I was pretty much outside of it. They told me they were going to do it. They did ask me to change the ending, and I refused. They wanted to either do a reshoot, or it turned out that it was Keir Dullea, clearly, and how does the movie finish then?
They released it. It did not do well. It was horrible. The reviews were incredibly cutting of the film in the States.
They admitted they misstepped with it. The juxtaposition of that idea with Christmas was intriguing to people, and that idea of no horror film had ever revolved around Christmas before. So they lost that idea.
They actually went back to calling it Black Christmas, and they had all these posters that said Silent Night, Evil Night. What they did was instead of making brand new posters, they cut out snipes for the bottom half of the poster and stuck it on.
I think I saw the coming attraction for the film before I ever saw the actual film. And it's a remarkable piece of work. I can just imagine going on a first date to some action film or a feel-good romantic comedy and suddenly get this hurled at me. And it would certainly spoil any chances of getting to first base after seeing this.
Remember those idyllic scenes out of your childhood? Crisp winter nights, sleigh bells, crackling Yule logs? Remember those? Remember them well. After Black Christmas, they'll never be the same again. Black Christmas. If this movie doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight.
Rated R.
It wasn't something that, even though it was great fun to make, that I thought would last this long. Nothing's astonished me more. It's a huge underground classic. It's just wild. I still have tons of people coming up and asking for autographs for Black Christmas stuff. It's amazing to me. This was a long time ago. This was, what, almost 30 years ago we made this?
It is this weird little freak stepchild that's been buried in a basement or locked in the attic, compared to some of the other horror films, just because of distribution and because probably it was Canadian and never really broke in the States the way it should have.
The video, I think, of Black Christmas was out of print for at least a good decade, and it wasn't really until, 6 or 7 years ago that interest kind of started picking up again.
When you think about the films that followed
Black Christmas, and you think about Carpenter's Halloween, and you think about the Friday the 13th films, you think about the whole slasher genre of the late 70s and the 80s. I think a lot of those films did take their cue from Black Christmas.
Halloween pretty much was conceived as a sequel to Black Christmas.
He and John were working on a film that were about some murderous family from the Appalachian Mountains. That was a project that never got made.
John Carpenter had asked Bob Clark, are you going to make another Black Christmas? You know, that's one of my favorite films. And he said, no, I don't think I really want to. I want to go in different directions now. And John Carpenter said, well, you know, if you were going to make it, what would you... what would you do?
It'll be, he was captured. After all, he was put in an institution, and the movie will begin the night he escapes back in town, and they don't know it yet, and I'm going to call it Halloween.
John Carpenter took that and ran with it, and of course Bob Clark was happy to let him go ahead and do his thing, so he added his own kind of spin to it.
He deserves the full expansive credit he's gotten for doing that movie. I mean, like I say, a few words about an idea are hardly a screenplay in a finished movie.
The film's current popularity was seen at a screening in December of 2004 in Los Angeles. A near-sellout crowd turned up as the theater screened a print on loan from Quentin Tarantino's personal collection.
It's an old movie that I'd seen a long time ago, and it's been a long time I want to see it again on the big screen.
It scared the hell out of me, and it scared me for years, and I still can't watch it without getting a little frightened.
Until Black Christmas was revived with a DVD release, the film's word of mouth was kept alive by the efforts of a number of fans on the internet, who even went so far as to hunt down the Black Christmas house.
It was weird after the movie to walk through the house and, see the closet where the first girl was murdered and put away with the plastic over her head. People knocked on my door and asked me if they can walk in and wanted to see the inside of the house, and they were very interested. It was a young guy from England, and his name is Dan. I know him by Danny. He became a very nice friend of mine, actually. And he was so fascinated with the movie, and this is his life. He came here on his honeymoon and just to see the house and learn more about Black Christmas, and he put a wonderful website on, and very nice to meet him and to see people so enthusiastic about this movie.
I realized that people hadn't seen this film, and that it just hadn't got the attention it deserved, and I felt that the only way I could do that, being just a small guy from England, was to put a website up. With the website, what I try and do is keep fans up to date on, on information like the screening of the new art, as well as providing a kind of multimedia gallery for people, sort of images and sounds and things like that. Just trying to recreate the experience of watching Black Christmas. By a long way, Black Christmas is my favourite film, and I don't know, I go to the video shop every day or, search the internet looking for something similar or, dare I say, better, but I can't see it happening.
I decided to build a website on the internet in late 1996 to really display my Black Christmas paintings. Watching the videotape, it ignited this inspiration in me to explore a painting or two of the house itself. The house seems to embody almost all of Bob Clark's horror. There's nothing I would change in the film except maybe Art Hindle's fur coats.
Rumors are circulating of a much-anticipated sequel to Black Christmas involving the producers of Ginger Snaps, Paula Devonshire and Steve Hoban.
Clearly, I'm of the belief we have to answer the ending. I don't think we can end the movie the way we ended it before. I don't think the audience will stand for it. I think they're going to explore Agnes in some length in the remake. Could be a killer twist. It could be a dynamite it works out. I think they're going to work it out.
After completing Black Christmas, Bob Clark directed Murder by Decree before leaving the horror genre for films such as Tribute and the holiday classic A Christmas Story. But today, Clark may be best known for the 1982 film Porky's, the highest-grossing Canadian film of all time.